I'm sure you've looked at infinite ways of manifestation and how to materialize your desires into physical form and an experience. But I'm sure you haven't come across the fact that there are a multitude of different types of manifestors, meaning there are different styles and different attributes or characteristics that we have as individuals that actually give you the blueprint as to how you manifest, not just a broad, generic understanding of manifestation. So today, what I want to do is I want to help you to break down these main kind of manifestors. Okay. And I want to explain it to you simply and directly. Now, you may recognize yourself as one of them, but I want you to see that these parts of essentially how we practice our divine talent is really going to be seen throughout each and every one of them for you. Okay. So when we come into recognizing manifestation, it is about the practice of your own divinity. Okay. When I say divinity, what I'm talking about is you being looked at or seeing yourself as an expression of the creator. Why? Well, because you were created by the creator. And because you have the ability to create, you are essentially having within you an inherent ability to do, right? To create, to have an idea and to actually push it forward into physical form. Now, the trick, though, is that we look at many forms of manifestation, techniques, theories, and we grab onto it thinking that that is the best way for us, for you to materialize your desire. But that may not be the case, because if that teaching doesn't align with your style of manifestation, then you're going to continue to basically run into a brick wall every time you practice, right? This is why a lot of times when people are practicing the affirmations and the visualization, or they're doing the things, it doesn't work out, right? Or they see other people doing things a lot quicker, a lot, simpler, and it just happens for them. And that can be very frustrating and annoying. Trust me when I say, with over 30 years of studying, practicing, spirituality, religion, metaphysics, I have been through the gambit of practicing particular beliefs or practices thinking that they're going to work, but not recognizing the key ingredient, right, which is you, and understanding how unique and special you are and how that key changes the dynamic of the journey. Okay. So let's get into the first manifestator. Okay. Now, remember, you're going to be able to identify yourself in each and every one of these. You're going to be able to identify what you've learned throughout your journey into spirituality, into manifestation, law of attraction, law of assumption. And you're going to be able to identify some of these things. Some of these things are going to be new to you, right? But what I want you to do is to help you to get a snapshot, an idea as to who you are. So that way, when you move forward in your manifestation, it makes better sense. Therefore, it'll align and you actually will materialize that which you desire, because you're doing it from a place that is natural to you. Okay. So the first one is an emotional. All right. Manifester. Now, when I list these, I'm going to list the characteristics, and I'm going to also list to you the common challenges and the strengths. Okay. So with being an emotion manifester, you get it, right? It's really about manifesting through your feelings. When we talk about manifestation, you hear that a lot. Feel it and it will happen. Feel it and it will materialize. Feel it and you will do it or align with it. Feel it and the frequency, right, will be attracting, right? The frequency you're emitting will attract that which you desire. Okay. So essentially, when you emotionally experience what you want as real, right? It shows up quickly. That is the emotional manifester. In pretty much all forms and teachings of manifestation, it gets into tapping into that. The problem is it singles it out as if it's the only way. Singles it out as if that is where you are supposed to put the majority, if not all, of your energy into. Okay. So just understand that this is just a part or a level, an identity, a characteristics of an individual type, not exactly what you're supposed to be doing. Okay. This is about a type. So all of these that I will list out is going to be 6 in total. You're going to see how the teachings that you've come across will, in fact, be influenced, okay, or will have a mix of all of these different attributes in their teachings, not identifying the fact that you must identify with one of these types of manifestors. Okay. So the challenge with emotional manifestors is that if your emotions are unstable, which they often are, right? You can feel happy and excited one moment, and then you can feel sad and depressed in the next moment. And it may have nothing to do with anything. It can just be a simple experience of being human in this physical world, right? We have emotions, they come and go, there are ups and downs, peaks and valleys. Strong doubt or fear can essentially cancel momentum when you come to a place of like, okay, I need to be in a space of gratitude, abundance, and joy. But the reality is to maintain that indefinitely forever is impossible when you're living this human experience. So what happens is many people can get that momentum going. They even start to materialize and manifest particular things, start to see synchronicities. But then if, say, something traumatic happens or you have an argument with your boyfriend, girlfriend, lover, spouse, your kids, some random person in the street, it can then drop your emotions. It can just kind of derail your whole momentum. So you want to be really mindful, all right, and intentional about how your emotions show up. And this is the challenge of the emotional manifester. Now, the power comes from emotional alignment, right? It's not about forcing positivity, though, but it's really about being the type of person who can identify the good in everything, because there is good in everything, right? When we look at the classic yin and yang symbol, right? There is the yin side, which is a little bit of yang, right? And then there's the yang side with a little bit of yin. That represents that within everything, there is quote unquote contrast or opposite. So in every situation, even the bad, the worst possible situation, you need to be the person who can recognize the good and the beauty in it. That's where you need to lean into. Okay. Let's get into number 2. Number 2 is about the mental. Now, I kind of lean into the mental part, the mental manifester. The mental part for me is about just really recognizing how to strategize, how to think through, how to really get my mind focused. It's more like the person who has that discipline, who can just go hard to grind, has that grit mentality. That's kind of where I lean in, is they're like a workhorse, right? So with the mental manifester, you essentially manifest through things like thought, belief, and clarity. Okay. It's about learning how to use your mind as a tool, the tool that it is, right? Your mind is a tool of strategy, of problem solving, of solution, oriented results. It is looking for a solution. If you have a problem, the best thing to do is go to sleep. Ask yourself that question. How do I solve such and such problem? How do I do this? Keep asking that question every night, and eventually you will wake up with an idea. You will wake up with a solution. Why? Because your mind will constantly work that out without you being distracted by everyday life when you're walking about in the daytime, you know? So, but the mental manifester, that person will think in terms of focused. They will be focused. They will be clean in as far as what it is that they want to achieve. Okay. It will almost be as if it is simple and direct for them because that person can isolate themselves. They can isolate the intention of life and purpose and all things toward that particular goal, right? Toward that particular desire. And pretty much everything else almost ceases to exist because that's just how that person is built. You see? So the challenge though for the mental manifester is that they tend to be an overthinker. Okay. And they tend to continue to analyze, right? And they're continually trying to figure it out. That can be something that can be almost like almost a detriment to the mental manifester because what they're going to do a lot of times is they're going to try something, do something, and if they don't get results, they're going to continue to analyze, reanalyze, and reanalyze. And eventually it may wear them down. It may take away their momentum. They may outthink themselves into or out of a positive situation. You see? So they have to continue to stay aligned and focused. For them, they need results because results provide data. And as long as the mental manifestator has data, then they can simply pivot, adjust, and calibrate accordingly to get that result. But they have to get data. You see what I mean? So the power comes from certainty, right? They're the kind of manifestator that is certain about what they want and they will actually get it going. Okay. It's not about repetition. It's not about them, trying or imagining or hoping. It's a matter of them recognizing that it is what they want. And no matter what they have to do, they will achieve it. Sometimes they can be stubborn about it though, you see? So trust me when I say. Now we're going to get into number 3. Number 3 is something I talk about often. Identity-based manifester. Now, this one is a big one because this is the one I really teach people about, especially when we talk about the future self frequency, because this is one of the things that I think we all have the capability to do. And we should be in the journey of mastering this kind of essence within us as far as how we materialize and how we manifest. Okay. So this one, basically you manifest through who you are. Okay. Not what you are. When you embody a version of you, right, that already has it all, reality just simply adjusts to this person. In a way, this kind of person encompasses all of these, okay, even the next 3 that I'm going to mention. But here is when you understand, even when you are, say, for example, an emotional manifester, okay, or a mental manifester. Here, when you are dialed in and focused on what you want, it changes who you are. You don't even identify as who you are, right? You only focus in on the desire and the identity of you having that thing. Okay. So it's a matter of recognizing your power to manipulate time, space, and the universe by way of who you're being in time, space, and the universe. because time, space, and the universe is responding to you always. Okay. Now, the challenge here is that many times people feel like they're waiting for proof, right? And they feel like they're waiting for proof before becoming that version of themselves. So people have difficulty changing their identity because they think that they must have the proof before they can mentally change it, before they can change that identity, before they can see themselves as other than the past self, as other than the past stories or identity. So the trick here with this person is that they have to go ahead into the future before it actually materializes in the present, okay, or the near future. It takes somebody who's really dialed into the spiritual concepts in order for them to be this kind of manifester. This is what I teach in the future self frequency, how you can actually change your identity, okay, to connect and align with that desire, that reality. All right. And the power comes from essentially embodiment. It doesn't come from effort. You see, like sometimes the mental manifester can be effort based. Okay. The emotional, not so much, even though it takes a different kind of effort, right? You may argue and say that emotions take a lot of energy, right? They drain you of energy, but really they bring energy to what it is that you're creating. But if you're not directing your emotions right, definitely it can be a waste of energy. So essentially, we want to get to a place where we're so locked into what we desire and how it is natural for us to create it that it's almost like floating in a river. We're just going against the natural flow of gravity, right? Your gravity. So it doesn't feel forced. It just simply feels like you. Okay. And now we're going to get into the next one, which is action. Okay. The action driven manifester. So this one is one of the ones that you never really hear about or talk about when it comes to manifestation is action, the importance of action. Okay. I always say that the reason why we have physical bodies is to do physical things and to have physical experiences, meaning have manifestation to create things. Okay. So here you manifest through aligned movement and decisive action. So it's not just you just doing random things and being all over the place. It is about being intentional about the action that you're doing. It's about really recognizing, having enough clarity to move forward in a particular direction that you feel aligns with you, meaning aligns with what you desire to experience in this life. And you simply take the initiative. Okay. You take the steps, you move. So that way you get closer and closer to that result. Okay. And essentially things essentially shift when you take steps that match your inner knowing, that match that beingness that is guiding you through. It's guiding us all the time in this life. We just simply have to learn to listen. And so these things here are giving you some framework on how to listen to your inner guidance, right? Because your inner guidance is telling you which one of these you lean into the most. Maybe even second tier, third tier, it's like love languages. Not everybody is just one. So you have to recognize, okay, I need to identify one of these so that way I can learn to listen from that perspective, from that point of view. Now, the challenge here is forcing action from a place of like fear and lack. Like if bills are due, you are doing things that goes against your moral value, right? Your moral compass to actually make money. If you want to be in a relationship, you are going or seeking people and going to places where it doesn't align with who you are, or where the kind of person that you wish to be with is there as well, right? They're not there. They're someplace else. So why are you going to this place? Why are you going to the club when you should be going to maybe a gym or maybe some kind of community activity, right? So you want to be mindful not to be so driven by action that it doesn't align with the overall intention and mission of what it is that you are looking to experience and create. You see? Now, with this person, the power comes from inspired action, not being busy, right? I tell people all the time, it's like, okay, you are very busy, but are you being productive? Are you actually creating or getting closer to the end result? Now, it's one thing to say, well, this is all I have, so I'm going to just keep working it until it breaks through. That's fine. But if you realize that there are other ways to do something, you're continuously being stubborn and staying with one thing, or you're all over the place, not doing one thing, but many infinite things, then you have to really take a look at yourself and say, wait a minute, are all these things I'm doing actually making a difference? Right? It's almost like the whole 7 streams of income. You can't build them all at the same time. You build one stream of income, make sure that it is stable, and then you create another one. And then when that is stable, you create a third one. You don't just start making 3 businesses all at one time. It's not sufficient. So you have to really focus on one, figure it out. And then once you master that one and you get it to where you want it to be, then you go into the next one. Okay. So it's about really making sure your actions are productive. Okay. And not just busy, just being busy is not going to do it for you. What it's going to do is end up burning you out. So be mindful about that with the action driven manifestor. 5. The 5th one is the visionary. The visionary manifestor. Now, this is the kind of person here that we kind of hear about often when it comes to manifestation. This is the kind of person that can manifest through imagination and an inner like imaginary landscape or power where they can just see it in their mind and it will just kind of just happen for them. Okay. It will just almost literally fall on their lap if they didn't have a roof that they were under, right? It may just do that. So they have an ability. Okay. And we see these kind of people a lot, especially in social media, where it just seems like it's so easy and effortless for them. Because it is. Because why? That's just the kind of manifestor they are. Don't be envious. Don't be jealous. That's just the way it is. Once you tap into the kind of manifestor you are, things will happen to you as easily as it appears to happen for these individuals. Okay. Now, these individuals, when they can see something clearly, okay, and it feels natural to them, it unfolds, right? It's just part of their journey. It's almost like they have a cheat code, but really what I think it is their path is such that they need to be propelled forward because there's a lot of things that they probably have to do and experience. So they need to be able to manifest faster because remember, manifestation isn't the end goal. Okay. It is about you learning that you are the creator. And so when you learn that you are the creator, initially, before that happens, you have to go through some things. So for each one of these kind of manifestors, there are challenges, as I communicated to you, that you have to go through. Okay. So for example, the challenge of the visionary is that the challenge is almost this innate desire to kind of escape into fantasy instead of grounding the vision itself. It's like it becomes such a mindscape that it almost isn't grounded in physical reality. It's almost like where they are is they are existing almost in a just a completely spiritual realm. That's where the mind is for many of us. That's where things begin to materialize. And so for that person, they can go into a place where they are just constantly in that spiritual, almost feeling like fantasy realm. The issue is that it creates a challenge because they're not grounded in the physical reality like most of us are, you see? So that's just simply their challenge. Now, the power comes from their ability to sustain their inner seeing ability. Okay. It's not about like quick visualization for them, right? Like, for example, when I practice visualization, I can do it and feel strong and feel dialed in for a few minutes, and then I get pulled out of it. These individuals can visualize and they can be in that state for a very long period of time because that is where their talent, their manifestation talent lies. Okay. Remember, this is what we're talking about is your manifestation talent. Where does your talent lie? Is your talent in the emotional, the mental, the identity, the action, the vision? When you recognize where your talent lies, you focus on that. Okay. If you recognize where your talent lies, but you have fun playing with, then you combine those two and you continue to push those forward. You see? So it's very important you understand that these are about skill sets when it comes to manifestation. All right. Now, the last one is a lot of people's favorite word, surrender. I'm saying that sarcastically, of course. So the surrender-based manifestator, this person here, all right, when we talk about manifestation or when you read about it, you often hear people say, be non-attached, visualize it, see it in your mind, feel it in your heart, maybe do the things and then let it go. That is what we're talking about, the let it go part. Why? The let it go part is about not being attached. Attachment means that you're almost desperate, that you're clinging to it, right? That you want it so bad. You want it so bad because you don't have it. Okay. So it's about the mindset of doing, being, putting it out there and letting it go. This person can let it go really fast. And then when they let it go, it sends out some kind of a frequency in the universe where by letting it go, they essentially, by surrendering, they kind of hold on to the identity of having it. It's almost like if you know you have millions of dollars coming to you, and say you have $1 million that comes to you every single day, and somebody said, hey, can I have $500,000? You may say, hey, here, sure. You're not attached, right? You surrender. Because tomorrow there's going to be another $1 million that comes into your bank account. This person has that kind of mindset when it comes to materialization. They can surrender it out and it always comes back tenfold, 20-fold, 100-fold. And that's just their reality. That's just who they are. That's just how they do things. But they also put the intention out there and let it go. So it comes in so many different layers. It comes in just them putting out their intention and things coming back. It comes in terms of them donating, right? Giving things, right? Being a philanthropist or a giver. And it just comes back. Whatever it is them giving. They're like a giver. Okay. So when you think about surrender, I really want you to think more like giver. right? Somebody who just simply gives. You give to the universe. They understand giving to the universe is really giving to themselves because you and the universe are one. So with them, it's really the challenge for them is, I would say, mistaking surrender for being extra passive, right? Passivity. So sometimes this person can be very passive, almost like, the person who has relationship after relationship and people are constantly taking advantage of them because they're so kind, they're such a giver. That's the challenge for this person, is that they're not intentional about what it is that they are creating, what it is that they desire. And so when they're not intentional with it, other people, right, will see that and take advantage of it and manipulate and use you because you haven't been focused. That's the challenge for this kind of person. Okay. Now their power though comes from trust, not control. Right. So the thing is though, you have to be intentional with the trust that you give as a surrender type. What I do is because I understand that believe it or not, we always trust people first. We say things like, oh, you have to earn my trust. Well, in order for them to earn your trust, you have to give them something and see what they do with it first. And so I'm one of those people like, there's certain things that I'm mindful about. I am from New York, so there's certain things that I'm like, I'm watching, but still nonetheless, if I have a good vibe about somebody, I trust them. And then I see what they do with what I trusted them with. And if it isn't to my liking, or if I find it awful or disrespectful, then I just pull that back. You see, the thing is, you have to be willing to give, but with the intention of recognizing who that person is that you're giving to. So you have to give a little bit, trust them, see what they do with it that aligns with what it is that you wish to create. Say, for example, it's a relationship. You have to trust this person. If you feel like they took that trust and they was disrespectful or dishonored that trust, then you decide whether or not you're going to have a conversation with them about it, see if they change, or if you're going to just get out of that relationship. It's that simple. But a lot of people will continue to stay in that relationship because they continue to give, thinking that they're going to get back from that person when that person isn't aligned with your overall vision. You want a good, healthy relationship? That's not the person for you. Okay. So you have to surrender that relationship in order for you to have the relationship that you want. Right. That's the process of this kind of surrender-based manifestator. So what you have to understand that all of these 6, which one fits you the most? Okay. Then figure out, because I'm sure it's not just one thing. I'm sure you probably identify with a multitude of them. But there's going to be one that you lean into the most, that resonates with you the most. That's the one you want to really focus on. Okay. How do you get really determined and really like narrow visioned on this way? Because chances are this is going to be the way. One of them is that you will manifest the fastest and you will get the highest results. So you're not limited to one type. All right. You are a multitude. You can even identify with all of them to a degree. So be mindful about that. You manifest when your thoughts, your emotions, your identity, and your actions agree. So all of that is kind of a combination of all these things. And that's why it gets confusing when we listen to manifestation, audios or books or people who are specialists, teachers in it, is that they mention all of the attributes of these kinds of manifestors, but they don't identify that you lean into one of these more than the other. And that's what really alters the course and how you maneuver through this landscape of creating the reality that you want. All right. So when you are internally, right, just when you're matching what you want externally, then all of these things kind of just, it's funny how it falls into place after the fact for many of us, right? So this is why when I get into the future self frequency with people, this book here, and I talk about, well, you have to visualize the person that you desire to be because that is who you are. When you do that, you kind of skip over certain aspects of figuring it out. And you get into, okay, who's this person? This is how I visualize me to be, the version of me that has it all. And so if I am embodying that person, becoming that person, bringing that person to the present moment, then you are skipping the figuring it out. And you are essentially at the place of already had figured it out. You see? So manifestation becomes a natural state of your being, right? Instead of something that is, you have to do, you have to figure it out, right? So that's really key here. You have to let go. And if you want, you can identify your dominant type, okay? And then strengthen the others. So your manifestation process can become consistent and predictable, but you have to figure out what you are first. For example, me, I would say I am mental and then action driven. Okay. So that's what I would say I am. So you can pick two. I would say mental and then action driven. And then I focus on identity. I mean, I think they all kind of come back to identity based, but my natural two is mental and action driven. Right. Then I would say I get into visualizing, surrendering, right? Emotion, they're all just aspects of who you are, but pick the two that dominate you, that is your type the most naturally. And then everything that you read, everything that you come across, you make sure that you see it from that lens of who you are as a manifester. Don't just take in whatever somebody's telling you and say, oh, this is the right way, therefore this is how it's supposed to work. No. You have to take everything in, receive it, absorb it from your point of view, from who you are. This is why awareness, this is why mindfulness is so important. You have to really observe and take a serious look at who you are and get to know yourself. Knowledge of self. That's what we're talking about. When you gain knowledge of self, then everything else, all right, knowledge of the universe begins to unfold because it's one and the same. All right. So I hope this helps you in your journey, because I think a lot of people are just not aware that you are a type. Okay. You are a dominant type. And once you get that, then you gain more clarity as to how you get to traverse this world, and you get to create it however you see fit based on your natural talents and abilities. All right. So thank you so much for joining me and sticking with the video. I definitely know it helped you, because when I made this discovery for myself, it was a great help for me. And I invite you, please go to futureselffrequency.com to pick up the book and the journal. But I also invite you, I just launched a futureself.com, a futureselffrequency.com AI tool. It is an app, a mobile app that will allow you to input the things that you desire to create and exactly how you can align with that by implementing daily journal entries, in which will give you a essentially guidance, right, from your future self as a result of what you put into this AI. So I invite you to go to futureselffrequency.ai. The app is free. And you can also go to futureselffrequency.com to pick up the book and the journal. Thank you so much. Peace and abundance always.